a really good idea, right? There's a load of debate about puberty blockers and gender affirming care amongst transgender people worldwide. If we let transgender young people, transgender feminine young people, have access to the puberty blockers and gender affirming hormones that they are asking to have, then they wouldn't build that muscle mass.
How can you not realize that this is the shit that is turning people against trans people? What if we weren't pushing this trans sport shit? What if we were leaving children alone? Would the situation be anywhere near as bad as it is?
My biology is much more female than it is male.
So poor women.
You're not helping trans people. You're not fighting for trans people's rights. You're the ones burying them.
You're anti-trans.
Our good friend Helen Webberley has been on Piers Morgan. We've got "That's a Dude." Trans high jumper wins in California. Plus leak report says Khalifa's a male.
Trans rights advocate Dr. Helen Webberley, aka the gender GP. Sarah Weiss, the trans pickleball player.
Oh, I've seen this person before as well. Oh, wow. So we've got a trans athlete and Helen Webberley. Juicy.
Author of Not Born This Way. And the host of Tommy Lehrer is Fearless on Outkick Tommy Lehrer. Welcome to all of you. Tommy Lehrer, I am clutching here the lab report, which was sensationally published in the last 48 hours, which confirmed what I and many others, you included, had concluded with our own eyes at the Paris Olympics, where Imam Khalif was looking like a man, boxing like a man, and beating up women in the ring so badly that one, an Italian female boxer, quit after 43 seconds and said she'd never been hit that hard in her life and feared for her life. So it was bleedingly obvious there was something wrong here, particularly when we knew that Imam Khalif had been banned from the previous year's World Championships after reportedly failing a sex test. And this is the result that got leaked. Now, this is pretty unambiguous. Chromosome analysis reveals male karyotype. That's it. It looks like Imam Khalif is a biological male. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Piers, the science doesn't lie. It's great to have that clarification, though none of us really needed it. I think it was abundantly obvious to those of us with eyes that watched any of this. We knew exactly what was happening here. But you'll recall, Piers, sports journalists, especially here in the United States, they called for people like you and me and Outkick and other outlets that were honest about this to be sued up, down, right, left, center. Oh my gosh, how dare you misgender this person? You guys are so evil. It's so awful. Well, where's the apology? Because as we suspected, the biology test came out, and guess what? 100%, we got our answer. That's a dude. And we need to be very clear about all of this. There is no place for men in women's sports. If you are a man who thinks he is a woman, that's fine. You can dress up, you can wear makeup, live your life, I don't care. Until you infringe on women and girls, then we're going to put our foot down. Finally, here in the US, we have a president that's doing something about it. And I hope California, I know we're going to get to this with A.B. Hernandez, I hope California loses all of its federal funding. Enough is enough.
I completely agree. Dr. Webberley, I know you...
I mean, I don't know if I think that, like, a state losing all its federal funding over, like, some trans athletes, like, it does seem extreme. Like, how many people are we hurting by doing so? How many people depend on, like, federal funding? It does seem disproportionate. At the same time, I do think that something needs doing. It's not going to stop being an issue. It's a fairly obvious and easy point for anyone who's really thinking with their brain that men probably shouldn't be in women's sports.
You do not completely agree. So let me start by just asking you this question. Why out of interest, why do we separate the sexes in the Olympics?
It's a historical thing, isn't it? You know, that we have male and female categories.
But why
It's a historical thing, yeah, wow.
we do it?
We're learning over the last 20 years is that male and female categorization doesn't work.
Also, male and female categorization for sports, for the Olympics, doesn't work. Well, how doesn't it work?
What do you mean it doesn't work?
Not everybody fits into a very simple male-female category, and that's why.
Okay, so a very generalized answer. I mean, the categorization does work for plenty of things. It works for the purpose of explaining how babies are made and stuff like that.
We're having discussions like this. It's not.
But
it's
everybody,
not
but this is the problem with the whole debate. They actually do, because the vast majority of human beings fit into the category of male or female.
I have to say something.
Well, no, hang on. I'm going to come to you, Sarah, and I will. I promise you.
The vast majority, you say, and that's the vast majority, and that's.
She's so sweaty. Like, where is she?
It's only in the last 2 or 3 years that suddenly half the world went, actually, I'm transgender. Before that, everyone lived quite happily as male or female, with a few people identifying it who were leading perfectly good lives, and there was no problem.
Yeah, like trans people are kind of the ones causing issues with the categorization. But truthfully, your sex doesn't change. And we all say things like, well, sex and gender aren't the same thing. Well, then surely you understand what sex you are. I understand that there are certain things that are like categorized based on sex, you know. Otherwise, what's the point in having that distinction? And then if there wasn't that distinction, we'd have to come up with another way, because there are very clearly, the human race is very clearly like dimorphic, you know.
Suddenly everybody wanted to be on the transgender train, and then everything had to be changed. Women's rights had to be destroyed. Women's rights to fairness, equality, safety had to be completely ignored and eradicated at the altar of transgender activism. And I have nothing against transgender people. I've said from day one, if you're transgender, that's absolutely fine by me. I hope you have the exact same human rights as me in every regard, to human rights, to safety, equality, all of it. But that's not what's happening. And in women's sport, unfortunately, this absurd obsession with allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sport has seriously damaged the integrity of women's sport, the fairness, the equality, and as we saw at the Olympics, the safety. We now know
Well, what's new? We're watching a lot of debates today for some reason. Here we go to Hillary Clinton.
that Imam Khalif was a bloke.
Well, Imam Khalif is not transgender, so I don't really know why.
Well, you
we are
don't know
bringing
that
him
actually,
into
do
it.
you? You don't actually know what you don't know what Imam Khalif is. All we know
If
from
I mean, Imam Khalif isn't transgender.
all we know from this leaked lab report is that Imam Khalif tested
Problem is, this person is very slippery. They don't really answer anything directly. This is going to be quite annoying, I'm guessing.
positive for male chromosomes. So last time I checked, that makes you male.
Well, I don't know how
Have
that
you
came
seen
into
your lab
possession.
reports, Piers?
Well, it's here. It was leaked. Yeah, it was
Have you
leaked.
seen yours? Do you know what your chromosomes
I know
are?
that I'm a man. Yes.
Who cares what his chromosomes are? He has a dick. Hasn't he got kids? Hasn't Piers Morgan got children? Yeah, he's got kids. Who cares? Chromosomes isn't like the primary thing we use to define sex anyway. He's fathered children. There is no clearer way of defining whether you're a man or a woman than that.
Yes, I am a male. And by the way, if I took you on at pickleball with enough training, I would win. You know why? That's why we separate the sexes. And I'm sure you're great at pickleball.
Wait, what?
Do you know what your chromosomes
I know
are?
that I'm a man. Yes, I am a male. And by the way, if I took you on at pickleball with enough training, I would win.
Why is he saying this? Why is he fucking saying this? This person is also male. They're substantially younger than you, probably fitter than you. Why is he saying this?
You know why? That's why we separate the sexes. And I'm sure you're great at pickleball.
But you're the same sex, so why would you be the one winning? Yeah, they might be trans. They've taken like estrogen that will have taken away some of their like muscle mass and stuff. They're still like probably gonna dominate you. Why does he say these things, man? Why is Piers Morgan like this?
But I also know that, for example, when the American women's football team, soccer, as you so shamefully call it, but when the women's soccer team with Megan Rapinoe, that towering force of equality, when she was leading that team, they were the best women's soccer team in history. And they played, I think it was the Dallas under-15 men's team, and they lost about 7-1, right? Which just kind of suggested to me that my theory that the reason we separate the sexes is because males have a biological advantage is actually why the transgender debate in women's sport is also obviously wrong. Let me bring in you here, Sarah, because you are a semi-pro pickleball player. Pickleball, I know, is a very fast-growing sport, and I have great respect for all pickleball players. But the bottom line with all sports of this nature
Okay, just about managed to pull that one off.
is that if somebody like LeBron James decided to take up pickleball and really worked hard at it for a year, he would hammer you into oblivion, and there'd be nothing you could do about it.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought all this stuff up. And the first thing that I do want to mention, it was
I'm trying to understand what Piers is even saying. Like, they're both male people.
mentioned that it was obvious that Imam Khalif was a male.
Yes.
And I think that is part of the most harmful part of
Do I play pickleball? No. I didn't even know it was a thing until this person appeared. I thought pickleball was co-ed. I guess it must not be. There was like, what it was, I think. This person was competing as a woman in like mixed doubles, you know what I mean? So you've got a man and they're a trans woman rather than a regular woman, which again, you're taking a spot from a woman. You've got someone advantaged over the other woman, meaning that your couple is advantaged, you know?
this is that we are categorizing what is femininity. And then we're putting it out there like propaganda.
No,
to
male
define
biology. We're
if some-
Yeah, we're not talking about categorizing femininity.
categorizing
no,
what is
hold on. If
male.
somebody
Hang on,
doesn't
hang on,
look
hang on.
feminine enough,
No.
then
It's not
they're-
about femininity.
Nice.
It's about
I think you could argue that some people were calling Imam Khalif male because they look masculine. Like, to me, they look androgynous. I don't know. That's why I wasn't sure, but... I don't know. There's nothing wrong with waiting for the evidence, right? Have I pickled my balls? I haven't. I don't know what they did with them after I had surgery. So maybe someone has, but not me.
About identifying male biology when we see it with our own eyes.
Identify things with lab reports all you want, but if we are putting out this propaganda that you have to look a specific way, and if it's obvious that you look masculine, then you're going to go
Actually,
under.
We're not really engaging though, are we? Clearly what he's talking about, lab results, biology, Imam Khalif probably has a DSD. Is it really too much to ask for any of these people to like just answer something directly and engage honestly? Because they know what he's talking about. I refuse to believe that neither of these people are understanding what he's saying correctly. That Helen Webberley, yes it is.
No, hang on, Sarah. No, it's when you look that way and it's already known that you, the year before, failed a sex test, which meant you were banned from the World Championships.
Might say that about
It's the two things going together. It's like, oh, hang on.
Yeah, you would fail a sex test because you're male. You should probably be in male sports, not female sports, right?
This person was banned for testing positive, apparently, for male chromosomes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched this person. They have like a YouTube channel. They had a video. They're complaining about being outed when they have stuff on their channel that very clearly shows that they are trans, meaning they have outed themselves. And like, I remember watching one of their videos about this whole thing. It came off very emotionally manipulative, which is basically every like trans athlete video I've ever watched.
Cue the lab report, which now confirms that, and is now competing in women's sport in the Olympics in a boxing ring where her women opponents are quitting after 40 seconds because they've never been hit that hard. I'm putting all these three things together and I'm saying, this is wrong. Why aren't you?
Now, the problem, though, is that if you're putting that out, and sure, there might be certain things that say, hey, well, what about the, you know, the accusations that she's a male and stuff? The fact that there are many lesbian women or women who do not look feminine enough. Yes, I'm not denying.
Oh, we're still going back to looks. We're talking about like physical. Oh, it's going to do my head. How many people do we need to come up and pretend to miss the point? You know what he's saying. Like, come on.
Nothing to do with the way she looks. I'm sorry, Sarah. I don't care how she looks. She could be 8 foot tall, for all I care, with a long scraggly beard. It has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that she's a biological male. That is the problem, which gives her a natural... And let me bring in Dr. Webberley. You know as a doctor that men have a biological advantage.
I really wish they'd have brought, rather than Tomi Lahren, like no offense to her or whatever, couldn't we have had someone on the other side that also has some like scientific background? I'm assuming Tomi Lahren doesn't.
Muscle mass, lung capacity, blah, 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 blah. It's why we separate the sexes. Otherwise...
Helen Webberley looks like if someone made George Michael out of raw sausage meat. Fucking hell. Crazy.
In the Olympics, women wouldn't win any gold medals, or silver, or bronze.
Not true.
Actually, women would win...
I've got a good idea for
I think
you.
I read a survey that said women might win 2 medals in the entire Olympics if they made it gender neutral, which would be a disgrace.
Yeah, gender neutral sports would be male sports. Let's be real. There will be certain sports where you will get women that are competitive. But for the most part, it will just be male sports. And like you have to contend with the fact that it's deeply unfeminist if you're going to argue for male inclusion in female sports. And that's the thing. Like, you can argue, oh, well, there's only a few trans athletes in total, so it's not a big deal. But that only implies that it would be a problem if there was more of them. If you're mixing everyone in together, then you're doing away with all that altogether and saying, well, everyone goes in together, so everyone is in the same category. And then there would definitely be major problems. And then these people would have to admit that their worldview is ridiculous.
Now, Dr. Webberley, why are you as a doctor trying to ignore biology?
I haven't been able to speak yet, so I don't know why I'm being...
Feel free, far away.
It. Thank you.
Well, she has previously. Hasn't she suggested before that sports should be cut? I can't remember if she has. Lots of people do. It's a stupid idea. Every time it comes up, it's stupid.
I've got a really good idea, right? There's a load of debate about puberty blockers and gender affirming care amongst transgender people worldwide. If we let transgender young people, transgender feminine young people, have access to the puberty blockers and gender affirming hormones that they are asking to have, then they wouldn't build that muscle mass, they wouldn't have increased skeletal size, and they wouldn't...
Person is an actual ghoul. They genuinely want to trans as many kids as humanly possible before they get locked up. Like, okay, yeah, how many of them are going to compete when they've all got fucking bone issues? How many of them are going to detransition? And now they're irreparably like damaged from what they've been through. How are you going to deal with the fallout from the fucking birth rate falling even further in like Western countries?
What age are you going to do this?
Oh, you usually get puberty blockers when puberty starts. That's
so what age are you going to do this to kids?
Well, I just answered when puberty starts.
Give me an age.
Well, puberty starts.
I said what age?
Between the age of around about 8 to 11.
You're going to give 8-year-olds drugs to try and resolve this problem. Have you learned nothing from the whole Tavistock clinic thing? Well, I don't think it's funny. I'm a father of 4 kids, including a 13-year-old girl. I don't think any of this is funny. The fact that your solution is to drug, is to block puberty.
Yeah, using it as an argument to play sport. It's like, okay, well, we've got the solution. Ruin a bunch of kids' health. Like, fuck me, man. How many of those kids are going through a phase? I'd love to know how Helen Webberley personally screens out kids that are actually going to persist with their gender identity or like their gender dysphoria and continue their treatment. Like, and which ones are not? How do you screen those out? I would be amazed if this person cares 1 inch and doesn't just transition anyone that comes across her, you know?
For 8-year-old kids, really?
I'm a mother of 5 children, and I believe that every single child deserves the right to live their best life.
Absolutely fine. As Tommy said...
Yeah, but if you transition them and they go back on it, that's not going to be them living their best life, is it? So you're gambling on those kids based on like an ideology. You know that when she started this, she didn't know almost anything about like transitioning kids.
Nobody has a problem.
That is a transgender
you can live as a dog or a cat as far as I'm concerned. It's fine.
I don't think I'd let my children do that. Sorry.
Well, actually, there are kids at school called furries who go as a cat. And
We've had this argument time and time again.
And my solution...
This isn't a great argument. Like, there is evidence for this happening, but it's not a great argument.
By the way, my solution is I would absolutely respect their right to be a little furry cat, and I would give them a little litter tray outside the thing where they could go and urinate, and I give them cat food. And trust me,
wait, why would you not affirm someone's furry identity, but affirm their cross-sex identity? A kid thought it was black, would you affirm that? Why is gender special in that regard? Or sex, rather? Gender is neither here nor there. You can just dress a different way if you don't want to be gendered like male or female. That simple. Why is sex, like, specifically special in that way?
After 2 days, they're back being girls again. Tommy,
Here's, I have a question.
Tommy, the answer, Tommy,
really
hang on, Sarah.
Yeah, notice Helen Webberley hasn't transitioned any of her own kids. Notice she hasn't been through any of these processes.
Hang on, don't talk about back being girls again. Tommy,
Here's, I have a question.
Tommy, the answer, Tommy, hang on, Sarah. Hang on, don't talk at once. Tommy, the answer apparently is to give puberty blockers to 8-year-olds.
So my question,
that's called child abuse. And the fact that you have somebody on this panel.
This person is like smirking when this person says it's child abuse, like fill kids up with hormones. I mean, I don't like to say it's child abuse because I think parents get scared into this kind of shit and they're in a very, very difficult position if their kid comes out as trans and people want to take it lightly, which actually pisses me off no end. But at the same time, this person's kind of taking it lightly by saying that to say it's child abuse is ridiculous when like that kid's going to have all kinds of effects and might go back on it one day.
That is advocating for the ability to debilitate young boys so that they have gender delusion, so that their body is now being mutilated, their actual biology is being changed.
Yeah, how many of these trans kids are going to go on to be athletes? How many of these kids that never went through their puberty are going to end up becoming athletes? Doesn't seem to happen very often. I guess we're still early on in it. But the fact that we're early on in it shows that there's lots of things we don't know that could go wrong.
Irreversibly so that they compete against little girls. That's really the solution here. Let's debilitate boys.
And also, here's the other thing. She says that you give puberty blockers when puberty starts. According to Marcy Bowers, if you give boys puberty blockers between the ages of like 9 and 11, Tanner stage 2, they, in some cases, are never able to orgasm. Are they going to be okay with that? Are they going to be happy about that? I would love to know what Dr. Helen Webberley thinks about this video. We're talking about transitioning children around the ages of 9 to 11, Tanner stage 2. Listen, I played it loads of times, but fuck it, we're doing it again.
The second was an observation that I had that every single child or adolescent who was truly blocked at Tanner stage 2 has never experienced orgasm. I mean, it's really about zero. These are of course, these are just assigned male at birth, so trans feminine. And it's because they never in their lives are exposed to testosterone.
Here's the thing. Some people are saying male puberty, that's where the line should be drawn. If you've been through male puberty, you shouldn't be able to compete with women's sports because the testosterone comes. It's a powerful drug. You're getting like advantages. It's a powerful chemical hormone, should I say. Like, if they go through a bit of male puberty to mitigate what Marcy Bowers is saying happens here, would that make them ineligible? What kind of advantages does that confer onto them?
That doesn't change. That doesn't change. So blockers prevent the rise of testosterone, and they don't really go on testosterone at or around surgery or into adulthood. And so we don't know. They're going to have this sensation. There's no question about that. But are they going to be able to achieve sexual satisfaction? It's important in relationships. And I know that from my work with female genital mutilation survivors that.
You remember Bowers versus Wu? Marcy said one of his daughters had gender trouble as a teen. Today is a girl's girl, hyper feminine, married and all. He didn't do anything and let the kid go her own way. Yeah, it's never their own kids, is it? It's never their own kids that they do any of this to. It's everyone else's.
That the lack of being able to be intimate with a partner is very important. And so this is what really raised the red flag for me, is to say, look, we need to have our eyes open about it. I think it's been beneficial talking about it. I know Joe and many others have reported to me, they've changed their approach a little bit in their informed consent models, and that we're talking about masturbation now. We're talking about, okay, that's an area of the body that's got very dysphoric for you, but you know what? It's all a penis is just a large clitoris. I mean,
no, you don't piss through your clitoris. How can you say that? It's not the same fucking thing.
It's all the same material. It really is.
The same material. That's like saying arms and legs are basically the same thing. That's like saying, I don't know, any two muscles are the same thing. Like, I suppose if you try hard enough and with the right metric, you can like say that any two things are basically the same thing. It's a bit of a ridiculous thing to say though, especially for a surgeon that specializes on cutting people up down there,
It is. So use it for the pleasurable purposes, partially that it was intended, and we'll see what happens. But these are to be answered questions. So, can we avoid puberty and get good adult results? And secondly, how do we assure someone that they're going to be able to be sexually responsive?
The one thing I wish is that I knew when this conversation took place. It was at least before September 2022, but that's about all I know. Oh, we're getting it onto 10,000 views. There we go.
We remove the blockers during the course of their adolescence and let a little bit of puberty come back.
Joe Olson must be sweating. FBI said they're going after the child butchers. Probably take three more years, though. Feds are slow as molasses. Hey, let's see, I guess.
Do we delay it a little bit? Maybe into Tanner's 3 or 4, maybe before they have their first orgasms, maybe.
Yeah, so we let them go through some puberty. So then, like, how much puberty is going to be too much? When does that advantage start being conferred, Anyway.
Boy, so they don't have an advantage. Let's make sure that they don't have better muscle capacity and lung capacity. Let's make sure.
I haven't seen the actual study, okay.
That they're just debilitated. Why don't we just break their arms and their legs while we're at it so that they can compete against the little girls? Do you realize how sick that sounds? That's abuse.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. And Sarah, I know you're keen to get into this debate. So on Saturday, A.B. Hernandez wins gold in the girls' high jump and triple jump at the California High School Track and Field Championships. The problem is, A.B. Hernandez is a biological male.
Look at this fucking idiot. And this one's smiling. Oh, I hate these people so much, man.
Male, right? So that means a girl has been deprived of winning 2 gold medals. How can that be fair? How is that right? How is any of this not just completely insane? And why would you as a trans person not see that and then think the obvious solution to this is that either you compete against your biological sex, as most trans athletes have done for many years before they suddenly put their hand up and say, I want to compete against women, and then they're much more, and then they're much more successful, which says it all. Or you have your own category. What is wrong with having a trans category? What is wrong with that?
Well, there's so much to unpack here. I mean,
not really.
So the trans category, they're going to say there's not enough trans athletes, which is probably true, to be fair. It's a stronger argument to just say, why don't you just compete with the males? They'll say things like, oh, well, you take hormones, that'll reduce your muscle mass. That ultimately is your choice. There isn't enough evidence to say that you can lower your muscle mass via estrogen to an extent where you're able to compete fairly with like females now. Like there was that study by what's her name? I forget Joanna Harper, I think. There's not very many like long-term studies into like muscle mass on HRT. This one went up to about 3 years and said that there is still some like advantage retained by males. There might always be some advantage. Like when I've met women that are a similar size and height to me, I generally find that I'm stronger than them. When a woman is stronger than me, it's usually one that like works out and is like noticeably like bigger, stronger. You know what I mean? Like I'm very, very skinny, but I'm stronger than I look. I think part of that is the fact that I'm male.
Tell me exactly how many trans athletes have gone and made a career.
Yeah, this is a weak point, unfortunately. You're now allowing the obfuscators to obfuscate. Like none of this means that they should be in with the females. And you know this. You must know this. Like high jump. How much advantage must you have? Bearing in mind, like, things like explosive strength, power. That's the kind of thing you need for, like, high jump and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing that males excel at over females.
Out of sports, who are making a living out of sports as a pro athlete.
Well, the United Nations said that
I mean, it does exist. It's just very rare.
Are all using that. It's
the United Nations said 900 medals have been
dominating.
The United Nations.
Would be easy to point out to all the people who are dominating. And
you asked me a question. I'm replying. The United
who are making a living out of sports as a pro athlete.
Well, the United Nations said that the
argument that you are all using that it's
the United Nations said 900 medals have been
dominating.
The United Nations.
Yeah, it's easy to say that trans women dominating is ridiculous. It's easy to say that. The problem is, that's probably partly because there aren't very many trans athletes. Like, you have to be able to, like... You can't use your arguments inconsistently like that. The fact that there are not very many trans athletes is sometimes convenient for these people, and sometimes it's not. I don't think this person has quite worked out where it is convenient and where it isn't.
Easy to point out to all the people who are dominating. And
you asked me a question, I'm replying. The United Nations had a report recently that said 900 medals last year around the world were deprived from female athletes because biological males who were trans athletes competing in women's sport won the medals. It's much more prevalent. It's much more prevalent.
Medals in that,
it's much more prevalent than the trans world would like.
Yeah, these medals, it includes like all kinds of things. It includes like extremely casual like competitions. But like, let's say it's half of that. What, like 495. That's still a lot. Even like 100 is a fair amount. You know what I mean? Like, they never engage with the actual point here, which is that these are medals being taken by males when males are already stronger, when males have had much more rights for a much longer amount of time than females. Women have only had like the right to vote for a little over 100 years. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's smug. They know what they're doing. They know that they are pushing shit that a lot of people do not like and that it's not very fair. There's no way they don't.
Like people to think.
Like, you can see how like irritated like Tommy Lauren looks and how like these two are like fucking grinning, you know?
And now you've got people like A.B. Hernandez, who's being supported all over the place by a woke left who didn't get the memo from Trump's win that people are sick of.
Oh, look at this. I actually hate this person. Why are you glad that trans women are now taking medals away from women? Why are you glad when this issue is one of the main reasons why there's such a hostile environment now to trans people? This fucking loser isn't trans. She doesn't know what it's like. I'm one of the people fucking downplaying it. I will at least say that things are like less favorable than they used to be, for sure. Like, undoubtedly. Part of that is because of issues like this. Why weren't we all just living in reality and saying, yeah, let women have their own fucking sports?
This garbage.
How terrible is it that a trans woman is doing well?
It's terrible that...
Yeah, it's pretty terrible when they're beating women at their own fucking sports, when they have an advantage. Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
You have to point
it's
out
terrible that a biological male. It's terrible that a biological male has an unfair
like this person is insinuating they don't care about women's sports, basically.
Physical advantage that allows the trans.
They're basically insinuating the who cares argument. If you don't care, you shouldn't be in this conversation.
Athlete, in this case, AB Hernandez, to win gold medals in 2 state events. It is not just terrible. It is an absolute
victory.
Sarah.
Didn't AB Hernandez win by over like a meter in one of these things? AB Hernandez, a junior at Jurapa Valley High School, secured the win with a more than 40-foot jump at the Ontario Relays Invitational meet back in February 22, sorry. The runner-up managed to jump just over 32 feet in the category. Like, that's insane. And these idiots are like downplaying it. It's nuts. How can you not realize that this is the shit that is turning people against trans people? What if we weren't pushing this trans sports shit? What if we were leaving children alone? Would the situation be anywhere near as bad as it is? What else do they have on us that is bad? Even like bathrooms is a lot less clear cut than this kind of shit. Like, you'd have prisons, other female spaces. What else? Like, these people are idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea the harm they are causing. It's fucking insane to me.
That allows the trans athlete, in this case, AB Hernandez, to win gold medals in 2 state events. It is not just terrible. It is an absolute.
Won some kind of record-breaking, won by 8 feet in a triple jump. Like, come off it. Come off it. What are you on?
Victory, which she did not.
Sarah, it is an absolute disgrace, and you know it.
Like, what does that even mean?
In your heart, you know it. This trans nonsense in sport has to stop. My question for you, why don't you just
Why is it nonsense?
Why don't you? Because you've got an unfair advantage. It's like cheating with drugs. It's the same thing. It's like when all the cyclists, took EPO.
Yeah, if it's not cheating, why can't women take testosterone and still compete, you know?
Celebrated in males.
Sorry?
Why celebrate biology?
It's like when all the cyclists, took EPO.
Celebrated in males.
Sorry?
Celebrate what in males?
Celebrate biological advantages in males. Why?
When do you ever see?
Well, yeah, athletes are going to have their own physical advantages that makes them good. But it's within the categorization of men and women. That's how we split sports.
See a trans man do well in sport?
Many times.
Many times. No, not many times. There's one fucking person. There is one person who is a trans man who has done well in male sports. That person is called Chris Mosier. Chris Mosier is an endurance athlete. He does like triathlon, duathlon, race walking, that kind of thing. Like, endurance sports are one of the ones where, because it's not as much about explosive power and like reaction times and stuff, men and women aren't as different. So the fact that some trans man has been able to do well in those kind of sports really doesn't say much about anything. Like, he's the only one. Who else do they come up with? Patricio Manuel won against 3 manlets in boxing and then got his ass kicked. Like, I don't know. I don't even know who else we're going to mention. There was some kid that did some wrestling. Did wrestling in school. No one's heard from him since. Who are we going to mention?
Go on, name one. Name one in the boxing.
You guys just are focused
Name one in the boxing ring.
Males.
You ever see a trans male boxer do well?
Yes.
Go on. Where? Name me an Olympic gold medal.
I don't have my source in front of me.
Name me the last time a trans male won Olympic gold against a bloke.
How many trans people in general are winning?
More and more. That's the problem. So I say, have your own pickleball trans category. I don't care.
Chris Mosier is an outlier. Well, yeah, true.
I want you to be enjoying your sport. I want you to be great at your...
Trans people are doing sport at like far less of a frequency than like gay people. And gay people do sport at a far less frequency than straight people. So yeah, of course there's not very many of them. That's not the fucking argument. The ones that are competing, some of them have advantages. You have to deal with that. You can't just say, oh, there's almost none of them. That doesn't matter. What if they were like, what if half of the fucking female athletes at the Olympics were trans women? What would you say then? Like 3/4 of the athletes at the entire Olympics are male. Doesn't that sound insane? Like, it doesn't matter how few of them there are. It's in concept, but none of them will talk in concept because that's not an argument they can make.
Your sport. I want you to live your life, live your dream. I just don't want you trashing women's rights. What's wrong with that?
Women's rights are my rights.
Well, they're not
Women's
really when it comes to sport,
are my
are they?
rights
No,
as
you're
well.
not, if you're not a woman, then they're not your rights.
Yeah, you're not a woman.
Take away my rights, that's on you, but I will fight every day.
You're
for the
taking
people who
women's
are being
rights away. Why would you?
discriminated against,
Why do you care
demonized
about
just
your
because
rights
they
but not
enjoy
women's
the sport
rights?
that they love.
Right. Why do you care?
No, that's not why. It's because you're entering with women. Why do we always just change it? Why do we have to? It's so obvious to anyone with ears that that is a fucking lie and that you've changed the question that he asked to answer something that he didn't ask. It's not about you competing in sports, full stop.
About your rights so much, but not women's rights.
I do.
You don't.
Like this person, I'm sure, mentioned propaganda earlier. Well, you're literally a propagandist now for something nobody wants. And that is like hamstringing trans rights, having an effect on people that have got nothing to do with this and would never want to compete in the women's when they're male.
I am a woman, so I care about my rights as a woman.
But you
and
have
I
a
stand for
superior
women with
advantage to actual biological females.
No.
You know it, and I know it.
My biology is much more female than it is male, and we
What does that even mean? How can it be much more female than male?
can go on about science, but I'm not here to talk about science. I want you to get to know
It's
trans
all
people.
about
Where's like your uterus and like ovaries? Shit like that. What age did you develop breasts?
Before you
science.
try and demonize them.
I don't
I can tell
demonize
you
trans
this.
people. I know trans. Caitlyn Jenner's a good friend of mine. Right, Caitlyn Jenner won Olympic gold as a decathlete for the United States as a male because Caitlyn was born a biological male.
Him saying that makes me shudder. It's truly how they see it. Women's rights are his rights, not women's. Yeah, Jesus.
Caitlyn now is a trans woman
why don't you
celebrated
want to
around the
allow
world, and she
your big
absolutely
thing-
understands she has a superior biology, so she does not think it's fair. Why is she wrong and you're right?
I'm not saying I'm wrong or right. I can only tell you my experience. But what I can say is that if you truly believe that going through male puberty is something that gives you such a massive advantage, then why are you fighting so hard to take away the rights of anyone who wants to go through puberty blockers, which is safe and reversible?
Jesus. It's not safe and reversible. Fuck off with that shit.
And make the decision.
But the solution is fill more kids up with fucking hormones. Like, fuck off. You're actually ghoulish.
Amongst themselves.
No, it's not. That's a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie. Not only are you advocating for child abuse, but what this is, Piers, this is not only gender.
They're safe and reversible. Puberty blockers. Why is it that you literally have to do a different bottom surgery on male kids that go through puberty blockers and then estrogen treatment? Their dicks don't grow. You have to do a different treatment because there's not enough there to invert.
Dysphoria and delusion. This is pure narcissism. It's a group of people that have decided that they are special cases, that they are sacred cows, that they get to do whatever the hell they want. They get to trample over everybody else, and we have to concede to them because they feel that they are special. You can be special or you can be equal, but you cannot be both. If you want to live your life as a female, whatever, but not when you're trampling on the rights of women.
What is your problem with someone that has nothing to do with you? Well, she doesn't like the concept of a male person with advantages over women, competing in with women as if you're exactly the same.
Period. This is narcissism. This is saying, look at me, I'm more important. All those other girls can get over it. It's just a few girls that are being left in the dust. Oh, well, just a few examples. If there's one woman who's being disadvantaged, if there is one woman that's being disadvantaged, that's too many. And Piers, it really, really burns my ass when I hear people say, oh, it's just a few examples. Those girls can just get over it. How about the one trans person? How about they get over it and compete against the boys? How about that?
Yeah.
How about this? You know, you talk about having separate divisions for trans people.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's pretty split down the middle between.
Yeah, separate divisions. There are mixed sports that exist. You get sports where you've got men that are not really competitive with other men, so they go into like mixed sports with women who are happy to compete with those men. Trans people are able to go in those. You could just go in the sport that is your sex.
Between people who support trans people and people who do not. And here's the opportunity you have to create a league where trans people aren't allowed. Go for it. And there's an opportunity to create leagues.
I think you should. I think in your case.
Well, listen, isn't that what most sports authorities are doing? Aren't most sports authorities literally saying we don't want trans people in there anyway? I don't know. You wanna continue fucking on that sinking ship, then go ahead.
I think in your case, you should either compete against male pickleball players or compete.
Well, that's what you think.
Or compete in
but you are not everybody.
Or you compete
and
in
I do agree that there are many who agree with
Well, that's what you think. Like, really, bro?
you, and there are many who agree with me that there is no.
Yeah, but who cares? You have an advantage. You're male. You're pretending otherwise.
No threat.
I don't know why you want to be
transgender women.
Sarah, why do you want to be a cheat? I mean, seriously, why do you want to be a cheat? That's what you're doing. You're cheating.
Cheating? No,
Yes.
That's very disrespectful.
Yes, it's cheating.
I think that's
You know what, Dr. Webberley? It's really.
You think Lance Armstrong loved cycling? He probably did. Probably still does. Doesn't mean he wasn't a cheater.
It really isn't. It cuts to the heart of the debate. It is cheating. It is knowingly using a superior biology from birth to beat women who are born with female.
The problem is, I'm not even sure if they do know. Maybe they're this deluded. I don't know. Someone like Helen Webberley, is that fucking captured? She probably doesn't know anymore.
Bodies. It is cheating.
I'm not a scientist.
And it's time to call it out for what it is. And Dr. Webberley.
You're not a scientist, then why are you fucking... Oh, never mind.
The idea you're a doctor and don't think that this is about science is breathtaking to me. Breathtaking. Of course it's about
Human
science.
being. I'm a doctor, I'm a human being, I'm a compassionate person.
What's that got to do with it? Why aren't you compassionate to women who are losing gold medals to men?
I don't understand why you have this both of you have this huge thing where we have to, not one single woman must be affected by these terrible trans people. What about inclusion? We are living in a world where we want everybody.
Why can't they go in the men's? That's inclusion. They're being included, no?
It's got nothing to do with inclusion.
Together.
This is where the trouble starts.
It has everything.
What's inclusive about women losing to men at boxing? What's inclusive about
very
that?
Clearly that in this panel we have 3 women and we have 1 man. You've been very clear about that.
Well, you have 2 women, 1 man, and 1 trans woman. That's what you have.
We have 3 women and we have 1 man.
We have 2 biological males and 2 biological females. You could call it anything you like.
Talks to everyone like they're a child. It's so nasty.
But we have 2 biological males and 2...
Like, same rights. Why do trans women have a right to be in, like, female sports? Isn't there such thing as, like, freedom of association? When sports are split by sex, why would a person of the opposite sex have the right to go in the other sex?
Biological females. That's what we have on this panel.
You know, Piers, you open this up saying if you trained hard enough, you could beat me easily.
Yeah.
So how do you
Yeah, the problem is he's being a fucking retard when he says that.
see me? Am I a male or am I a female? Because if you think you can easily beat me because you're a male,
I happen to be very good at pickleball, so that's a different matter altogether.
You kind of tattled on yourself there. I'm just saying.
No, it's a good point.
No, he fucked it up, to be clear. You're not helping, Piers.
I take that one. But Dr. Webberley, I just find it baffling that a doctor thinks this is all about feelings and compassion. It's not. It's not about trans rights to fairness, equality and safety. I want them to have fairness, safety and equality. What I don't want, and Tommy doesn't want, is an erosion of women's rights to those 3 same things. And that is what's happening in sport. And that's why this is wrong. And I call you a cheat. Sarah, I purely call you a cheat because you all know that this is fundamentally unfair, and I don't understand why you. I don't understand why you want to bring mockery. I don't know why you want to expose the trans community to mockery and abuse and calls of cheat and so on. When you could just have your own category. When you could just have your own category. You could have your own category.
You guys are the ones
or you could compete against your biological.
Yeah, we should have been inclusive to like juicers like Lance. Sure.
Sex, then no one would complain.
I do. I compete against everyone, and I have a blast, and it's a ball. The only people who have a problem are the people who are talking about and have nothing to do with sports, let alone pickleball.
Yeah, if LeBron James wanted to play basketball as a woman, would you be happy with that if he suddenly was in the American women's national team? Yes or no?
I think it'd be hilarious. I'd be so curious.
It'd be hilarious, but obviously
That's so unserious, man. You can't answer because you know the answer. You know you have a line somewhere. But you can't do that, so you have to like hide away. Hide behind the irony. We see a lot of that these days, don't we? Instead of like, be honest and be sincere about anything. We're all just bad comedians now.
He would completely destroy every record ever set by an actual woman. Would you respect his right to compete as a woman in the American women's national basketball team? Yes or no?
Do I want to compete with LeBron James?
No.
Yeah.
No. Would it be right for LeBron James to compete in the women's team if he identified as a woman? Yes or no?
Right and wrong is going to be relative to what you compare.
Just say right or wrong. Would you be right or wrong?
No, it's not a simple black and
Actually,
gray
it really is.
question.
And in fact, you can't
everything
answer
in
it.
this world that we live is not binary.
So you're not saying it would be wrong for LeBron
Yes, whether they can answer the question or not is not binary.
James to
No,
compete
I'm
as a
not
woman?
saying it would be wrong.
You're not saying that?
No.
Hilarious. Dr. Webberley, would it be wrong for LeBron James to compete in the women's national team for America
I'm not going to answer.
if he wanted to?
He's not a woman. He's not. He doesn't live as a woman. He doesn't identify as a woman.
So if
Living as a woman doesn't make you a woman. Well, I mean, I guess it does because you have to be a woman to live as a woman. Identifying as a woman has got nothing to do with anything.
you're not a biological woman, you shouldn't be allowed to.
Plenty of trans women are not perceived as women, yet they still identify, so they still are according to you.
Is that your position now?
So what is this biological woman that's just suddenly arisen? Because I went to medical
biological
school.
Born with a fucking vagina.
A woman is a woman born with biological chromosomes, which says she's a woman. It's not difficult. You should know that. You're a doctor.
And there are many people. You can keep saying because you're a doctor, you ought to know this.
Well, you should.
It's just not bright.
What are you a doctor in?
Is, you know, chromosomes.
What are you a doctor in?
We said at the beginning that that it is not two categories, male and female, and chromosomes do not fit into two categories. Hormones don't fit into two categories. Reproductive organs, genus.
The hormones, like... They're like the hormones we consider like gendered or sex or whatever. There are two of them because there's estrogen and testosterone. Oh, it's painful. It's actually fucking painful.
External genitals do not fit into two categories, and nor does gender identity. Now, this person you're speaking about, I don't follow American sports.
Well, LeBron James is 6'8". He's probably one of the three greatest male basketball players in history. If he was to put his hand up and say, "I'm now transgender and want to compete in the women's game," would you be happy with that? Yes or no?
If the rules say that transgender women are equal and invited into that sport category,
you know, Andrew Davies, he was one of the ones that I had an appointment with. Crazy.
And this person properly identifies as a woman.
He seemed nice.
Rather than just one of your made-up kind of things, which I feel that this is, then yes, if the rules say that trans women are included in this.
Sarah and
you can identify as a woman. To me, it's just, well, that doesn't mean anything. What if you're delusional? What if you're going through something? You know, like, all identifying as something means is that you call yourself something. That's all it means. Like, if you actually break down what it means to identify as something.
Dr. Webberley, you have just ruined women's basketball irrevocably for the rest of time.
Poor women.
Because LeBron James would break every record.
Oh, poor women. There we go. There we go.
Record in women's basketball, never to be beaten by a woman, and that you think is equality, fairness, and everything else. What a load of old cobblers.
Such a joke.
Ironically. Thank you all very much indeed.
Have these kinds of conversations.
Nice to talk to you all. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proud.
That was fucking rancid. What do you even say? What do you even say? They must know on some level that these are the kind of things that are getting weaponized against trans people because it's just such an obvious thing that males are stronger than females and that certain things should just be left as like sex-based and that it's okay if you don't have every single equal opportunity as a trans woman with women. Like, that's okay. You're never going to have all of it anyway. For example, you'll never have like maternity leave or any of that shit. You'll never become pregnant. I don't think that's ever going to happen, like womb transplants and shit. And like when you talk about like transitioning an 8-year-old, that 8-year-old is then making a decision that they're never having their own kids, that their body is going to be forever altered. How many kids honestly have that much of a concept of like permanence? It's just unfathomable. And like, Piers Morgan is not like, he's not really good enough at this to like accurately or like effectively like bring these people down, especially when there's two of them on at once. That's a bit nuts. But at the same time, listen, people are able to hear their rhetoric. People are able to hear what they're saying. This isn't helping. This is making things worse. You have to be 18 in most countries to have a tattoo. An 8-year-old child is supposed to know and understand all the consequences of puberty blocks and changing genders. Yeah. And the thing is, if you're gonna put a child on puberty blockers for the purpose of transitioning, you necessarily should be expecting that they will go on to further treatment. So in effect, they are consenting to far more than just puberty blockers. Because statistically, they're most likely, by far, to go on to like further treatment, which is going to have irreparable effects. Like, I don't know. I don't know if Helen Webberley is just doing the rounds while she can before she actually gets like clapped for something. It's disgusting. And it's like, I don't know, I'm ashamed of it. There's so many trans people out there that I'm down with this shit. And these people aren't representing trans people the way they think they are. You're not helping trans people. You're not fighting for trans people's rights. You're the ones burying them. You're the ones pissing everyone else off into becoming radicalized against this shit. It didn't have to be this way.